All right, I think we're all set to get started here. So I'm gonna take a huge risk today. I'm gonna live demo. I do have some Wi-Fi problems, so we'll see how it goes. But if anything, we're still open downstairs. So just depending on how the demo goes and what I actually can show you, come downstairs and we have the same thing available downstairs, and we'd love to show you. Did everyone catch Ray's presentation today? Ray Reddy, VP of Retail. He showed off some of the things that we're doing. So cool. I'm gonna walk into this with just a bit of a different angle. So I think Ray had a bit of an overview of, like there's a retail opportunity. Did anyone attend the biz mode session? Sade presented like, oh, it was full. Well, lucky them. Yeah, so sorry you couldn't make it, but that was talking more about like the retail opportunity, and this is going to talk more about like the platform opportunity, the investment we've done in the platform. So my name is Rune, and I live in San Francisco. I work for Shopify, and I lead the team that has worked on POS UI extensions, so that has, that are behind the growth of the platform. Just want to make sure my notes are big enough here. So I think I have like a bit of insight into like how the platform is doing. We see merchants developing on it, we see partners developing on it, and we get some good insights into what's being built, what problems are y'all running into, but also what solutions are you coming up with? What are you solving on behalf of Shopify, like niche needs or big problems for merchants? So we'd love to talk to you about some of that today. I want to deep dive into just overall Shopify extensions, but our extension targets, and specifically how to think about building contextually relevant targets. The reason for that is, I'll get into that, but we want to make sure that it's important you consider where your extensions appear in POS, understanding like what are the workflows that are happening in POS and where does it make sense for your app's capabilities and functionality to appear in POS. I will also kind of talk about what is available to you, and then we'll dive into the demo. I'm going to show off a block extension, our new Observe target as well, and then for anyone who's paid attention, we just came out with direct API access. I see some nodding heads. I know that's been a long time coming, and I can't wait to see what y'all build with it. To be honest, it's going to be great. All right, so brief overview here. Today we offer 3 ways to extend into POS. We have embedded apps. These are essentially available on the smart grid. You can launch into embedded apps. That's great, but the problem that comes with that is they're not optimized for that environment. They're not optimized for the fast-paced selling workflow. The UI elements are not optimized for those devices, whether it's mobile or whether it's tablet. And often what happens is it takes the staff member out of that experience of they're working in POS and now all of a sudden they're working in a different experience. Tab targets are smaller. Shopify Functions, you can enable consistent experiences across all sales channels. You can apply logic that's consistent across your sales channels, whether it's online store or physical retail. And there are things like you can ensure uniform pricing, discounts, checkout experiences, regardless of where those purchases are happening. Obviously, I'm really excited about UI extensions. That's why I'm here to talk to you about that today. That is our desired approach when everyone is building. I think it's really great, but I'll tell you why it's great. It's great because you use components that are the ones that we use to build POS. So your extensions are using the same components. They're optimized for that environment. They're really fast. Your extensions load incredibly fast. We actually cache your code locally. If you update it, we update it for you. But your app becomes part of POS instead of these separate experiences that take you out of the main POS experience. All right, so you can create more captivating experiences that feel like that native part of POS I'll talk about sort of like the growth of the platform, what we've done to expand what you can actually build. So rather than building custom interfaces from scratch, or you're building for a different type of experience, like what you do in admin is very different from what a staff member is doing in POS. They're trying to add something to the cart. They have a customer in front of them, and they want to make a sale really quickly, preferably with attribution, so they maybe get paid, and you don't want to get in the way of that. That's not all you can do in POS. Of course, you can enable some experiences. We have inventory counting. There are like just things within the retail environment that POS can help unlock. I talked about a bit of the performance benefit here. You can update your extension in real time. I do suggest that you're careful with it. So consider, it's great to deploy code as you please, but also consider like when you're deploying code, there could be a staff member out there using your extension. It's 2 p.m. on a Saturday, they're trying to make a sale. If you're changing your extension from the sale they had 5 minutes ago to now, that could be very disruptive. So be sure to work with your merchants, with your customers, to use the Shopify ecosystem, do app releases. Like it's all great. It works with POS UI extensions. All right, so just want to take you through the journey. Ray showed a little bit of that, but I'm going to just showcase it one more time because I'm kind of proud of it. So last year, a bit before this time last year, we had 11 APIs, 32 components, and 4 targets. For our July release coming up, so we release quarterly, so we have a release coming up in July, we'll have 16 APIs. So we started with some foundational APIs available, device API, cart API. We had things specific to POS like navigation API, device API, action API, and now we have 16 APIs. We are adding a new cart line item API that will work with the cart line item targets, so action block and modal targets on the cart line item screen. And then we also earlier this year released the print API, so you can actually do native document printing in POS. Last year we had just over 32 components, UI components, and we now have 38 components. We have a new box, we have print preview. We have a UI component that lets you put stuff on a physical printed receipts. We've updated image stack. I promise you here on this stage that we are committed, and you saw Ray talk about it as well. We're going to address some of the issues that you may have experienced around building UI with POS. We want to enable you to build great experiences. So we're gonna, as he called it, like it's UI API alignment, and that's what we're gonna be going for. So if you're building for checkout experiences, for admin experiences, and you jump over and you want to extend your app into POS because some of the workflows from your app make sense in POS, we want you to do that really easily and really quickly. And that obviously helps if things look the same and they work the same way. All right, we went from 4 targets to 25 targets across, I'll show in a second, 9 surfaces. That's obviously where we've seen the most dramatic growth. We had 4 targets on 2 key surfaces. We had Smart Grid, and then we had post-purchase. And on post-purchase, we had action and modal. We've now introduced Observe, and we've introduced block targets as well. And we've expanded the surface area to include product details, order details, customer details, cart line item details, and draft order details. And then the Observe targets are throughout more of the system as well. So obviously we've invested in the platform, and we will continue to invest a lot more. The approach we're taking is we are hearing from merchants, we're hearing from partners, where does my app's functionality make sense? Where do I want to extend into? And that's what we're kind of listening to. So as you give us feedback about where does your functionality make sense, we listen to that, but we are wanting to open it up even more so that more of the surface area of POS can actually be extended, and your app's functionality can live inside POS in more places. Yeah, so as you see, we have, did I miss any? cache tracking, that's for observe. But we have these areas here, and it gives your extension access to the critical merchant moments that are happening, customer identification, post-purchase, and they're not just integration points, but we consider what we want to extend because we want to make sure that it makes sense and that they address specific merchants' needs that are out there. And with this in mind, I want to emphasize something here that I've called contextual targeting. So what we've observed, and I know we're slightly at fault here because when you say Shopify app generate extension, the default extension that you get is a tile and a modal. I see a nod over there. So I realize that that is what we give you out of the box, and that is your starting point, whether you're new to POS extensions or you're adding a new extension. So we see a lot of extensions on the smart grid. But that also means that what we're seeing are these monolithic, big extensions that are catch-all, that are doing everything. And often what happens is we see workflows being built from a tile extension that are essentially starting from scratch. You open that up, you get a modal. Now you have to get a product from somewhere, or you have to get a customer from somewhere. You could, of course, use the card API and you will get some of that information. But what you're ending up with is you're taking the staff member on that journey in your extension only, and it doesn't really make sense that now they have to leave your extension and go do something else. And maybe they have to start from scratch and you have to rebuild that. Where it makes sense is if you're doing something with, let's say, an order-related functionality, your extension should likely live inside the order details screen because you get the order ID and now you can start from there. And same with customer details, you get the customer ID, you can start to collect things directly there, and you're not having them start from scratch. The same thing, your app could also be doing many things inside one extension. You should consider how you can split those up into different screens, different workflows. Does something that would appear on order details actually, parts of that would make sense on post-purchase. Post-purchase is an order, if you will, but it happened right after a purchase. So is there something that is more relevant for your extension in that case? I think by embracing that, you'll essentially reduce some of that friction that happens by routing somebody too deep down some rabbit hole in your extension. And one thing you have to consider in that retail environment, someone's not sitting down at a computer using your app and that is now their job. Someone is, again, trying to sell something. They're right there that customer wants to go out the door as quickly as possible. So they want to get through that sale, right? But your app, your extension offers some functionality that needs to be part of that sale. And if it's in the relevant location, that's even better. All right. I talked briefly about this, and I know it was shown by Ray upstairs, or downstairs. I'm upstairs, right? App authentication and direct API access. So how many have used app authentication yet? Yes? In POS or elsewhere? Okay, great. Wow. Direct API access? Okay, I was actually expecting the opposite set of hands, but that's totally fine. App authentication, essentially with version 10.2, and it's in unstable right now, but it's coming to stable, I promise you that. But this is a preview and we would love to have you start building right now. App authentication essentially resolves the issue of you have to talk to your own backend, and doing token management and authorization for that is really painful. We essentially do that work for you as long as you sort of adhere to how that works, and that's the same across our ecosystem. For direct API access, you now can, in your extension, directly communicate or query, mutate, if you will, as well, to the admin API. And you do not have to do anything. I think the preview I have here, that is all you have to do essentially. You fetch. You don't have to add authentication. You don't have to add any headers. You just say you want to query this. If your app has access to that data on the merchant store, your extension will have access to that data directly. You don't have to proxy through your own backend, and that takes a long time. and we optimize the calls for you. We can do our own caching for you, and obviously do your error handling. So if you don't have access to the data, just take care as well. But essentially, it unblocks you from having to build fairly complex infrastructure in order to handle like getting data from the admin API. And what you'll end up with here is an opportunity, perhaps, depending on what types of apps you're building, what types of extensions you're building, you will have an opportunity to essentially utilize Shopify as your own backend with meta fields, meta objects, customer data is there, like whatever you can access and that your app, when installed, gets access to, you can retrieve and you can store, update, whatever you want on the merchant store.
A question about app authentication. I thought I did it. I did not. I did the old way.
Okay.
So this new way, what's different?
So essentially, like if you call, like you've registered your URL, and then if you call your app's backend, we will add the ID token there in the header. And then as long as you've implemented what you need to implement on your end, so it would be equivalent if you were making those calls from like an admin extension as well, that would be handled for you as well. Yeah, so you do have to handle it on your back end to ensure that like it's a valid call that's coming from somewhere. But at least you're kind of guaranteed and you can use the functionality that we offer to authenticate. And at least on this end, you're not having to deal with adding all that stuff and potentially leaking stuff. Okay, all right, I'm being told to save questions, but and if we don't have time for questions, I will be here or, well, I'll walk out because I'm sure we have another presentation. I'll definitely be downstairs. All right, live demo. I don't know if I need to ask for drum rolls or I won't, but let's see how this goes. I'm also realizing that the text might be very small and that when I rehearsed this, I was looking at the demo right here. So I'm gonna have to do this a little bit. But we have the result of this downstairs, and I'm gonna make sure that like that will work. I'm gonna be showing something on a simulator once that's all up and running. So one thing I promise, and how many saw the demo downstairs? A couple people, yeah. So essentially what we're gonna be doing here is look at the customer details block and the observe target for when a transaction is completed. And then we're also gonna be looking at direct access, direct API access as well. All right, so let me get my terminal on the right screen here. I asked if that was going to be a problem with my beard, but cool. All right, so I'm in my app here. If I go into extensions here, and I just look at what's in there, nothing. So I'm gonna generate an extension here. When was the last time anyone generated an extension? Today? No? Okay. Do you remember what it looked like when you did one? Did you have these options? Great. Well, you have new options. So I talked about this earlier in the presentation. What you're essentially ending up with is, hopefully less of those like tile extensions because that's your starting point, but we're also kind of showcasing on each of these targets or each of these parts of POS what's actually possible for you. So we were gonna do a customer details one, so I'm gonna do that right now. And I'm gonna call it discount points. I'm gonna do TypeScript React. And we are good to go here. Cool. So now we have our extension here, and out of the gate, what you get now with this new extension, I'll go a little fast, so if this is new to you, we have great developer documentation, but happy to share more downstairs as well. So this is your TOML file. We've defined what our targets are here. So we have 3 out of the box with the customer details. I'll show them here. Action block and menu item. I actually don't want any of these, but I'll just briefly showcase them because what I have in my code is more. So the menu item is the thing that appears on the right side, and that usually can open up a modal for a workflow, or you can perform an action. So if you just want to perform an action on that screen, you can do that. Block appears in line on those screens. So in this case, it appears at the bottom of the customer details screen. And then action as well is the one that I was talking about, like that's an actual action. All right. I'm going to delete these. And I'm going to do vibe coding, which is copy pasting today. So first, I just want to update this. I'm glad I planned it like this because there's no way I can code properly when looking behind me. So a couple things I just did here. I'm targeting the unstable API version, and I'm doing that because direct API access is not yet available for you to target unless you are targeting the unstable API version. So just something to keep in mind if you go home and try this. By the way, I've already installed my app on my store. I have already requested these scopes. I've already made POS an embedded app, which is required for an extension to show up. But these are important because my app needs to have access through the admin API to this data. Not all of them, but I just wholesale copied over some earlier. All right, so let's go back and just have a look at what our TOML file says. So we have the customer details block. So we want to showcase something there. And then we have the transaction complete event served target as well. And we have two files here that are going to come from over here. I'm going to drag and drop them. Great. So I deleted the other ones that we had. And I'm going to just grab the other one here. I can. Great. So let's look at the customer details block first. This is a little bit contrived in terms of like what the experience should be, but what I want to have here is essentially there are loyalty points that exist as a meta field on my shop. So there's a customer meta field that contains numbers, and these are loyalty points. And based on the number of loyalty points, I want to offer discounts. So in my block that we have defined way down here, we create it, and then we load the points. So we just fetch the loyalty points, and I'll jump over to that in a second. Then we have a function here that can apply the discount. The key thing here is that it uses the cart API, and then it applies the discount. And then we have some naming involved here as well. In terms of the rest of the functionality, there's just some loading states. If there are no points available, we just show something basic. And then over here is the key portion of our block extension, which is essentially what's the point balance and what, if any, available discounts are there. And if there are available discounts, simply just iterate over them. Again, there's not a lot of like insane logic here. You may want to not go home and build exactly that, but it is a good example. So you can redeem them, and it gives you a percentage discount. And then from there, what you can do is essentially call into the card API to apply that discount. Over here in our fetch loyalty points, what we're doing is, again, you saw it on the screen earlier, we're fetching the points. We're passing in the customer ID because we got that on the customer details screen. And we're simply just calling fetch here. Notice again, there are no authorization needed. You just call that and we take care of everything for you. And again, keep in mind, you use your app's scopes. So when you're fetching for data, when you're fetching the the customer data, you need read customers. Otherwise, you do not have access to that. And the call will tell you that if you don't have access. But if your app is installed and that's like what you've requested as access scopes, you will have access. And then we also want to get the meta field, which is one I set up earlier today. I just made a custom one called loyalty direct points. Variables that I'm passing in, the customer ID, I told you we got that earlier from our API. And then we're just simply, there's a bit of basic error handling here. We're simply just getting the value back from that meta field, which again, I said was a number. So the way that this is programmed is 100 points is $5, I think it was, or 5%, I think it was off. All right, I'll showcase the last bit here. Okay, so for our transaction complete observed targets that we are, am I on the right thing here? I think I copied in the wrong thing. One sec. Aha. That should be it. It's the same thing, but just a final version of it. Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sorry about that. We had the wrong code copied in here. So for our observed targets, what we're doing here is essentially when the transaction completes, we want to deduct those points from the customer record. Is that 10? Cool. Thanks, 10. And then essentially ensure that we've reported that and then deduct the points. You can obviously handle that however you like, but this is a way to showcase that through observed targets, you're able to do something after. And we see that we made a sale and there was a discount used with our values in there. Pretty straightforward. Here we're updating the loyalty points. So when we confirm that we've done that, we're updating it. What's different about this that we saw before where we're fetching over here we're doing a mutation. So just like you can do a query, you can do a mutation as well. We're just passing in the variables, pretty straightforward. We're saying this is the customer ID, so we're updating the meta field record on that customer ID. We already know we had the custom key, which was loyalty direct points, and then what our new point balance is. So we're doing a little bit of calculation for what the new point balance should be. I see some phones out to take photos. No, you're good, you're good. Definitely do that. But teaser, this is actually available on our developer docs. So this exact thing is a tutorial where we walk you through everything, and it probably does a little bit of a better job of taking it slower than I maybe did today. So you're building it. So I encourage you to check it out. It will tell you how to set up the meta field on the developer, like through the developer docs. You can set up the meta field on your own partner test store. But yeah, again, definitely take pictures, as many as you want. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this up and running. It looks like we have connection, so that's so far so good. Great. Because I can't get my iPad to work, I'll just showcase this, which is the way that you would see it. But obviously, because I'm a developer at Shopify, I have a little bit extra access. But essentially what you do here is scan this for your on your iPad with POS, and it opens POS, and now you can, in real time, debug and develop your app. Okay, so I'm going to just get this going on simulator real quick. Bear with me, but essentially you would just open the camera and you would get it. Come on, demo gods. Okay. So here I have POS, and now you'll see my password for my demo store here. One thing you'll notice that is here is this is not I didn't build a smart grid tile extension, but we do give you access to other extension targets. So we do that because if you're building a post-purchase extension, it might be a lot of work to, you're retesting it, you're changing some code, now you have to go make a fake purchase. So this is a way for you to just see some of your other targets really quickly. You can also see that we define them here. So I've defined like the two targets, the customer details block render target, and then also the transaction complete event observed target. In this case, we just give you the sort of some dummy ID. So in this case, it's customer ID 1, which doesn't really mean it's actually a customer. But if I go here and I scroll down, we will see that, Russell has 400 points, and I can now issue some discounts. So I'm going to pretend I'm making a sale here. So I'm going to add Russell to my cart. I'm going to sell Russell a snowboard. And then as part of my workflow here, I'm going into the extension, and then I'll just redeem 5 and close that up. And now we have, with my custom key here, I'm going to go through checkout. And then my event will get fired through this, essentially, and now the points will be deducted. So I saw I have 5 minutes, so I actually want to stop there and then take any questions. Again, please come downstairs. If you haven't already talked to us downstairs, we have a booth, and would love to see you down there. Would love to see what you're developing. If you are developing any extensions, please come show them off. I think we have until 4 down there, right? So run down if you want to chat with us, but I'll sort of hang out as well. I might just pop downstairs because it's easier to talk down there. Great.
So
There's a guy with a mic, so raise your hand, and then are we recording anything? I don't think so, right? Okay, great. Yeah.
So with this observed target,
Yeah.
is it running? It seems like it's running after the sale is complete, correct?
Yes.
So I assume that there's a chance that there could be like a network failure. So like, if you actually want to guarantee, like, I guess, would we actually want to run something like what you've shown, or only something that can tolerate failure? I guess because you could have a network issue.
Yeah. I think it's always important to build in failure scenarios into your code. Yeah. So the thing about extensions is that you mostly operate in an online environment. So Ray showed it on his presentation. We are going to come out with local storage as well, which is because of this reason. If you can't complete the work, then you're kind of SOL, right? Where you want to recover from that. A good way to recover from that is store that state somewhere, and then we'll give you an opportunity to recover in the future.
And so it's not like atomic where it could be happening simultaneously with the purchase to guarantee that both, or like transactionally consistent.
Yeah, I mean, the transaction complete, we may not even call you, right? Because it could be in an offline scenario. So we can't call you until we are now online and the transaction completes. The thing about transactions is that you saw me sort of go through checkout, but the transaction completing is not necessarily tied to that UI of now you see the post-purchase, right? That could be something, like it could happen at a different stage, but what's important is that the transaction completed, and we will let you know that that happened, and you can observe that event. We're good. I don't need any more slides. Yeah.
Oh, yes. For the cash tracking one.
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
So specifically for cash tracking, there are some regions that merchants operate in, and it's very important for like compliance reasons that they closely monitor and report to various entities how much money is in the till, or obvious reasons. So this is essentially like a way for us to help partners handle that. So for compliance reasons, it's important to track when the session starts and ends. How are we on time here? 1 minute. Okay, thanks.
Hey, Rune. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on the direct API access. I know that you mentioned a few times that it's based on the access scopes that our app
Yes,
has, but
correct.
is it tied to the logged in user access, what they have access to as well? Because I thought
No.
I read in the
Yeah.
documentation that it had something to do with the logged in user. But
So what's unique about, I think, your app performing work, right, is that this is across all of Shopify's ecosystem. So your app has access to certain scopes, permissions, essentially. We have a concept of admin users, staff that work at this merchant, and they have different permissions to have access to different pieces of UI or retrieve different data if they're doing that directly. Your app, when installed, is granted that those permissions. If a staff member is provided the permission to use your app, they essentially are allowed to now read customers, even though maybe in admin they can't go into the customer profile, but through your app they can look at a customer profile. Yeah. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. We're wrapped up. I know you had a question over there, so let's talk after.
Let's meet outside if you guys have any questions or at the booth. But
Cool.
we have a really tight turnaround, so sorry
Yeah.
about that. We have
Okay.
another session coming in. Thank you. Let's
Thank
give
you
a
so
round
much.
of applause.